Hello, James from Become HVT here, and this is my Guild Wars 2 Thief Guide for Spontaneous Kill Dancing. And we'll get to what kill dancing is in just a little bit, but first I want to go over a little bit of preliminary stuff. This is my second in the kill dancing series. If you want to see the first one, you can click on Dowsent right here, who's saying hello, and that'll link you right to the first video, the Guild Wars 2 Spontaneous Kill Dancing video for an engineer. Now, this is my thief one though, so first of all, let's say hello. That's Montgomery right there, who's going to be our thief for this video. And I want to start by going over the traits, because the traits synergize very well with the equipment and with the weapon skills. They also augment a lot of things, so that's where I want to begin this video. So let's open up the traits right here. Now, the same rules are going to apply as they did with the engineer spontaneous kill dancing video, which is I'm going to go over these, but I'm not going to go over in an incredible amount of detail. I find doing that actually limits choices. I want this build, if you like it, to be your build, which means you have to make some of the choices on your own. So I'm going to give you a brief overview on like how I do it and what works well for me, but what works well for me might not work well for you. So I want to just kind of touch on everything, and then we'll see some of this theory in action. I'm going to have a whole section at the end, which is just going to be combat related, and I'll slow some things down so you can really see how all this works well together. Now, the trait lines that I use are critical strikes, trickery, and deadly arts. And I chose these specifically for how well they work together with each other. It's going to deal a lot in critical hits and critical hit damage. So right off the bat, there's each trait line has 3 traits that you can control, and in this one is going to do a 5% crit chance increase if your health is above 90%. That works really well with the next one on the trait line, which is going to increase your crit damage by 7% if your health is above 90%. So as long as your health is up, you're going to be doing more crits and doing more damage per crit. Right down the line is you are granted Fury when you strike an enemy whose health is below 90%, which is great because you're going to get their health below 90% incredibly quickly. This build can do a lot of burst damage, as you'll see momentarily, and you're going to get Fury pretty much right off the bat as soon as you start, as soon as you get into combat. Now, I chose to increase my ferocity based off of my precision by 10%. This one's kind of up to you. The way I have this build set up, I benefit quite a bit from that, and you'll see why in just a second. But the next trait down the line is going to increase your damage by 10% if the enemy's health is below 50%, which is great because there's other traits that you're going to see in a moment that are also going to do damage based off of the enemy's health threshold. So you'll see that this will come up again in just a second. Now, the one right here at the end, the trait right here at the end, is great because you're going to get 15% health returned to you based off of your condition damage. That's why I wanted to get ferocity a little higher, and why I chose this particular trait to gain 10% ferocity based off my precision, because the more crit damage you do, the higher the healing is you're going to receive per crit. So it's at 15%, so you're going to get 15% of every crit that you do. And you'll see just how phenomenal that is as far as healing in combat is concerned. Now, this build is predominantly a PvE build. I'm not that great at PvP in this game. I do it, it's fun, I enjoy it, but I'm not overly great at it. I really focus more on PvE. And this, you can sustain tons of battles that you should probably not be able to because of this trait right here. You're going to be able to keep yourself in the combat, and because of the weapon choices, which I'll get to in just a moment, you're going to be able to get out of combat real quick, do some distance damage to regain some health, and get right back into the fight. The next trait line is Trickery. Trickery is going to be dealing a lot with initiative and regaining initiative and stealing. As you can see right off the bat, gain 2 initiative with the first trait. The second trait, when you steal, you're going to gain Fury, Might, and Swiftness for 10 seconds to you and all the allies around you. So you're going to really be able to throw a lot of boons on yourself and your allies just from possibly a combat opener like stealing. Preparedness increases maximum initiative by 3. It's incredibly important because you're going to be relying a lot on that initiative to get in and out of combat and put a lot of not only conditions on enemies, but also heal yourself, as you'll see as soon as we get into the combat part of the video. The next trait down the line, Stealing, grants you and nearby allies vigor. It also rips boons off the target and grants them to nearby allies. It's incredibly important. You're going to be able to get vigor and as well as whatever boons the enemy has on them. It comes in very handy. The next trait that you don't have any control over increases damage per initiative, and the steal recharges faster. Now, I use steal all the time. I might even have the item stolen in my inventory. I don't care. I want to use stealing again to apply the boons to myself and to my companions. But also, as you can see in this next trait right down here, you're going to add confusion every time you steal. That's also very important for the healing aspect of things, because we're going to be using, down here, the Signet of Malice. That heals you every time you do damage. It also heals you every time you do condition damage. So you're going to be doing a lot of damage from the confusion plus the other conditions that you're going to be putting on the targets, and we'll get to all that when we talk about weapon traits right after the profession traits. Right down the line, Deadly Arts. Now, the last trait that we just looked at added confusion on steal. This first trait adds poison on steal. So now you're going to be poisoning and confusing and granting boons just from stealing. Right down the line, dagger training, you're going to be adding, you have a 33% chance to inflict poison on every dagger strike. It's incredibly important, as you'll see when we talk about the weapon skills with the dagger in just a moment. Lotus Poison weakens targets when you poison them. So when you steal, you're going to be adding weakness, poison, confusion, and all the boons to yourself. So stealing has really become a pretty valuable resource, you know, out of nowhere. I mean, granted, it's always been slightly valuable with getting an item from an enemy that you can then use against them, but now it actually, you're going to be doing tons of damage and you're going to be receiving tons of healing from this. The next one, Traps apply vulnerability to enemies and grant you might. I do have a trap in my utility bar. We'll get to that in a second, and we'll focus a little bit more on that trait when we get there. The next trait down the line, deal more damage if your target has a condition. Your targets are going to always be conditioned. In fact, some of the conditions you apply are sort of AoE, so you'll be able to do a lot more damage to all the targets in an area, because you might be able to take on a group if you time all of your attacks properly. The last trait down the line is deal extra damage when your target is below the health threshold. That's another 20% damage increase if your target is below 50%. Now, if you remember back at the first trait line, you're going to get a 10% increased damage bonus if your target's below 50. You're going to be doing a lot more damage once your target is past half health. As far as weapon traits go, we're going to start with the double pistol. Now, I know a lot of people out there love dagger pistol. I could never really get into it too much. I love double dagger and double pistol, and I'll show you why, and you'll be able to see that in combat in just a moment. The first attack is it's just a generic one-at-a-time pistol shot, and it's going to add a stack of bleeding every time you hit the target. If you use this as a sneak attack, you're going to add 5 stacks of bleeding, and I will show you how that works in just a minute when we get into the double dagger skills. The second attack, as far as double pistols go, is body shot, which is going to add 5 stacks of vulnerability and immobilize the target for 1 second. The third attack, I love the third attack. Blast your foes repeatedly with both pistols. It's, you know, your generic bam 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 pistol combo, and it does a lot of damage. And because it only takes 5 initiative, you can hit it probably about 3 or 4 times consecutively, hit the target a lot, receive a lot of healing in return. So this is I kind of use this almost as my healing ability, because I will backdash out of a situation, go to dual pistol, hit 3, 3, 3, you know, right in a row, do a ton of damage to the enemy, but also receive a lot of healing in return, and you'll watch my health go from almost nothing right back up to full, and you'll see how all that works when we get into the combat. The fourth attack is headshot. You're going to be able to daze the foe for it makes it so that the foe cannot use a skill. The next skill, it's useful. I haven't really used it too much. I like to use my initiative for more direct action approaches, but the black powder does come in handy a lot if you're in a sticky situation where maybe the enemy closed distance on you faster than you thought they would, and you still haven't regained enough health. You could hit black powder, dive roll out of the way. You would get a couple of seconds where the enemy won't be able to land a hit on you. It does come in handy quite a bit. So let's hop over into double dagger. The first attack is actually a string of 3 attacks, and the final attack is going to add poison to the enemy, which is great because poison also now adds weakness because of the trait that we talked about earlier. And if you are in stealth, you can stealth attack them, which is going to do a lot of damage if you're behind them. The second attack in the double dagger line is leap and strike your foe. The less health your target has, the more damage it causes, and you can see right here from the tooltip that if they're below 25% health, it does a lot more damage. It does more, about double the damage that it does if they're above 50% health. So this really comes in handy at the end, or if you just need a way to close the gap between yourself and an enemy, don't feel afraid to hit this. It only costs 3 initiatives. You gain that back really quick. If you need to just cover some ground, it's the perfect way to do so. The attack number 3, Death Blossom, is unbelievably helpful. This is what I spend most of my time doing in combat, because you're going to be adding bleed to every enemy that you hit. You're going to be evading while you're doing the spin move that's in the air, so you're not going to be able to be hit. You're going to be adding bleeding to all the targets you hit in the area. This is going to massively increase the amount of healing you receive in return. So if you're down on health, you can hit 3. You're going to be doing all these attacks to everybody kind of in a circle around you. It's not a huge AoE, but it's enough that you're going to be able to apply bleeding to a lot of targets, and you're going to be able to accumulate a lot of health in return. And I'll show you how all that works in just a moment when we get to the combat. Skill number 4, I really haven't used that much. It cripples a target, which knocks their movement speed down by 50% for 3 seconds, and the dagger returns to you. It's helpful. I've used it on occasion, but I'm really more about creating distance when I need health and closing distance when I don't, and really doing a lot of damage up close and personal. So I haven't really used that too much. Now, the 5th skill, stab your foe and vanish into stealth, leaving them vulnerable. It's going to add vulnerability, which is fantastic, 3 stacks of that, but it's also going to stealth you. Now, if you feel like you are taking a little bit too much damage and you need to get out of there, use skill number 5 right here at the end. You're going to add vulnerability, you're going to cloak, hop back into double pistols, and use the first ability right here. Maybe dive roll out of the way, then hit number 1, and it's going to add 5 stacks of bleeding on them, and then you can hit 2 right away, which will immobilize them for a moment and add some vulnerability. So that really works well to create some distance and to also really regain some of your health while you're away from the target, and maybe give yourself a little bit of breathing room. Also, and I want to talk about this now, I'm going to talk about some of the utility skills. You could also use Cloak and Dagger right after the second utility I have set up, which is Needle Trap. I use Needle Trap because it does immobilize the target for 3 seconds, giving you the ability to create some distance. It will poison the target, adding another condition, which will also, in turn, let you receive more healing. It adds bleed to the target, which you're already doing a lot with some of your other dagger skills and pistol skills. Now it's going to add vulnerability and grant you might because of the trait line, because of some of the traits that we picked in our trait lines. So it comes in incredibly handy to create some distance on the enemy and really do a lot more damage. Again, going right along with the sustainability and healing yourself, I chose Scale Venom because it applies Torment and Vulnerability. Now, we get Vulnerability from a lot of other sources, so I don't really focus on that. But the Torment is a new condition to the build. We haven't had any Torment additions here as far as conditions, and this is going to add another condition that you're going to be able to receive healing from again, and it could hit up to 4 targets. So if you pop Scale Venom and then hit Death Blossom and do a couple rolls over some people, you might be able to spread out this to a couple of different targets and really get a lot of healing in return. I used to use this a lot back when the pistol had Ricochet, so you could back up and hit multiple targets at once and really spread Torment around and all the bleeding and some poisons, and you'd really be able to do quite a lot of healing back to yourself. This build is really about sustained survivability for you personally. You're not going to be doing a lot of help to your teammates around you. You're going to be keeping yourself alive, and you're going to be able to do that very well. The third utility, I have Signet of Agility to increase my precision, which in turn increases my ferocity. This is really up to you, though. I don't like even activating the Signet. I don't ever use the activation on it. If I do, it's because my finger slipped and I hit it by mistake. So this is really up to you. If you feel more comfortable with a different utility, by all means, go ahead. And the elite utility here at the end, I like Thieves Guild because it adds another 2 allies to the area. So if you're taking on something that's maybe a little outside your level and you're having some problems with it, it's hitting you too hard or hitting you too often, and you feel like you need some breathing room and the other utilities are maybe on cooldown, you can hit this. 2 thieves show up out of nowhere, and most of the time they do pull the aggro off of you. So you'll have a chance to maybe, evade out of the way, hop on dual pistols, hit a ton of damage at distance, regain all of your health, steal, give yourself some boons, give them some boons, do some more damage to the target based off the steal, use the steal trinket that you got off them. You're going to be able to do a lot as soon as those 2 thieves come out. It does have a 180-second cooldown. But so you could probably only use it once in a normal battle, but still, that one time could change the entire course of the battle. So let's hop into weapons and equipment and see how all that works out together. Instead of going piece by piece down here, because I'm not really happy with the way all of this turned out, and you can see I do have some pretty good gear that I'm working on, but a lot of my trinkets and things like that just really don't cut it. I still have some greens, I have some yellows, I really need to upgrade a lot of stuff. So I want to talk more about the attributes and where I want to see this build go and why I like it so much. Precision I have pretty high, which brings my critical hit chance up to a 56%, almost 57%, which is pretty fine for this build. You really don't need to go much higher than that because you do hit so fast so often. It's like every hit you fire crits, even though it's technically every other hit or a little bit over every other hit. You're not even going to notice the ones that you don't crit on. You're going to crit more times than you could possibly believe, only because of the amount of hits the thief is able to throw out at once. I mean, it's probably the fastest hitting class that I can think of. Ferocity I also have at 714 at the moment. I want to get that a little bit higher so that I can do higher crits and then in turn receive higher amounts healed per crit. I want to also get my my condition damage up just a little bit more. So this build is really going to be focused on precision, ferocity, power. Power is always important for those times that you don't crit, and even when you do, you want those crits to be higher, and condition damage. As far as signets go, I like to keep a 50% chance on critical to steal health. Again, it's going to increase that survivability. It also does damage the target a little bit more, which is fantastic. And it has a 5-second cooldown, but you're going to be critting so often that 50% chance is going to happen more or less every time 5 seconds is up. You're going to grab a little bit more health to keep yourself alive. And the second signet that I use grants 10 condition damage every time you kill a foe, up to, I believe it's 250. So you'll have an extra 250 condition damage, which is going to come in very handy because you're going to have a lot of conditions on these targets, as you're going to see in just a moment, just doing Death Blossom a couple times and generic, generic attacks with the daggers and all the stuff that you do when you steal. Adding confusion, adding poison, adding weakness, all the stuff. It's an incredible build for sustainability and survivability. Now, some of you may be watching this video thinking, hey, you haven't talked about the short bow at all. And I do have a short bow, and I love the short bow. It's a great weapon, just not in my hands. I am terrible with it, and that's why I don't even want to talk about it. Because if you need like a ground targeting tutorial, please, again, here he is again, Dowsent, click on him, and he'll take you right over to my other video, and I do have a ground targeting tutorial there because I found it very difficult to ground target when I started my engineer, and I had to really work on it for a while, and I couldn't find a good video, so I just made one. So please check that out if you want a ground targeting tutorial. But as far as this particular weapon goes, I am awful with it. So any video I would make about the short bow with the thief would be garbage and misleading. So if you have success with it, then by all means use it. It is a great weapon, just not in my hands. So with that being said, I want to get right into some actual combat and show you how this build really works. As far as taking out single enemies or multiple enemies, maybe some groups, maybe some stuff that's way higher level than I am, outside of my range that I should be able to survive it, but I do because this build is really built to survive the long term in some intense combat situations. So I'm going to hop over to that right now, and I'll see you in a minute. So this is some footage from just a little bit earlier today, and I'm going to freeze frame some stuff and slow some stuff down to make it a little bit more comprehensive. I start the combat right off the bat by using something I had previously stolen from an enemy. Then I go right into the steel and start a nice Death Blossom chain, and I want to show you here in just a second. I'm going to freeze frame it to show you just how much healing you can receive and how much damage you can do from a quick Death Blossom chain. It really is very effective to get your health back up. So now I see I pulled another enemy off here to my left, and there might be one behind me. So I stop real quick and I throw out the spike trap to try to maybe set myself up for a little bit of distance in case I need to regain some health, because I don't know how much damage they're going to be doing to me in a second. I pop on double pistols and I just do a quick, number 3 action where it's just 2 pistols, bam, 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 and you can just see right there how much health I'm able to regain. I took some damage in the meantime, so it didn't come up that much, but I did heal myself a lot. I kind of broke even right there. So I see now I have 3 enemies that I'm fighting right now, and I don't know how much longer this battle is going to last, so I pop my elite skill to take some of the aggro off me. You can see it works pretty well. The aggro, I'm pretty much being left alone right now, and the enemies are just fighting my my summoned thieves. Now I'm going to slow down right here so you see something. That battle just ended, and the thieves did not go attack right away. They didn't attack until I initiated combat, which is great because they're not just mindless drones that are just going to go and start combat without you. They'll wait for you to engage, which is incredibly helpful. So I start the next little round of combat. You can see right there I just did another steal, and I go in for some more Death Blossoms. And I slow down here to show you just how great it is as an AoE. And right here I pause because I wanted to show you the distance that AoE can be. You don't have to be right up on the targets. You're going to be hitting a lot of targets even at a pretty good range with that Death Blossom. And I just keep doing that back and forth because I'm able to stack all those conditions on the various enemies. And I did just steal, and I used the steal trinket that I got, and look at all the boons it gave me. That many boons at once can really turn the tide of battle, and it kind of did for me right here because I wasn't struggling too much, but I could see how that was, if it prolonged too long, I was going to start running out of some of my more key abilities to stay in combat. So now this is the next guy that spawns right here. I run in there, I do another Death Blossom, I back up a little bit, I heal myself a bit, and then I go right in for that steal, switch back to double daggers, and then start that Death Blossom rotation again, because I'm able to hit all those targets at once, keep my health up pretty high, and do a lot of damage, and spread the conditions out to all of them because they all kind of are huddled. Now this is the first time I've ever fought this guy. I've been in ore plenty of times. I've done tons of this was my main for a long time, but I didn't know that they were going to put all that ground targeting around there, which is why I had to try to just stay on my feet and stay mobile. I tried using the Scale Venom to regain some more health, and it just doesn't work out for me. But you can see here how I did evade quite a bit doing the Death Blossoms, but ultimately they do down me. Now I noticed that I'm not going to be able to regain enough health to respawn right here, so I use the second ability, which is to actually jump to a new position. Only the thief can do that, which is fantastic. As I do that, I put enough distance between me and the enemy. I can run back in, get my health back while I do some more Death Blossoms, and easy peasy, the guy's downed. So I just wanted to show a little bit more of what this class can do. Again, I stealth in. That's usually my opener because it gives me that trinket that I can use whenever I need it. And it also keeps the enemy, if they have a long opening attack like this guy does, I'm already in there doing damage before he even had a chance to warm up. So I'm able to stack, I had 10 stacks of bleed. I think I get up to 12 at one point. And then I just start trying to move around now that he has his spawns around. Now I paused here because I wanted to show you that Death Blossom can also be used to escape a lot of situations when it comes to ground targeting. Look at that. I just hopped right over all that stuff. Now I kind of see how things are going right here, and I have a pretty good feeling there's going to be a lot more ground targeting going on. So I back up, pop out dual pistols, and just start hitting them from a distance. I'm able to regain a little bit more health, but I'm pretty topped off right now, so now I'm just trying to stick back, apply some more bleeds, and do some more damage. Then I see that I pulled something from behind me, and he locked me in place there for a second. So I call out my Thieves Guild again, just to pull aggro off myself. If I have more than one enemy, and maybe if one of them's a vet like this, You can see here that by accident I hit the wrong button and did pop a Signet of Malice. I never do that. I try to avoid that at all costs, but my finger slipped and I hit it. So I just do a couple of Death Blossoms around, and I slowed it down so you can see just how many enemies that can hit at once, and it can really spread that damage out. It's incredible. I love Death Blossom for that reason. You end up doing quite a bit of damage to every enemy around you. I can't really say too highly. I can't really speak too highly about it. I love that skill, especially in this build, because you do regain a lot of health from all the damage you're putting out. So that's the build. That's my Thief build for spontaneous kill dancing. So what really is kill dancing? It's when you get kind of like a little rush because you just did something you feel is so cool that you can't help it. Like take your hands off the keyboard and just be like, I am the man. And you just need to do that because you didn't maybe even think that you could have done what you were going in to do. Maybe it was too powerful, the enemy you were going up against. Maybe it outleveled you. But it didn't matter how hard they hit you or how fast they hit you or how hard they came at you, because you were able to gauge the enemy's attacks before they even did. And that's a lot of what the Thief is. I mean, most of the combat that you're seeing here, you get a feel for when you're going to take a certain amount of damage. Like you saw when I was doing some of that fighting in Ore, I was able to preempt the ground targeting, pop on dual pistols, evade backwards, and set the situation up to my benefit. And that's a lot of what this Thief class is. It's built to make you always have the edge over your opponent if you're able to read them and know who you're going up against. Some of the combat that you saw in the first combat sequence, I never fought that enemy, so I didn't know how much they were going to ground target the area, but I was still able to down the enemy in the end because this build is set up to give you multiple, almost like ways out, that you can lock your target in place, either evade backwards, stealth in if you need to grab some boons, as well as do some more up close and personal damage and apply a lot of conditions and do a lot more damage to give yourself a lot of healing in return. Some might argue that I shouldn't focus so much on the healing aspect of it, but I don't care if I'm even wasting a trait or two to give myself that bonus healing, because when it matters, it will be there. And it doesn't matter if I'm at full health for some of these battles and I'm not using it, because when I do need it, it's there. And that's the most important thing for me with this particular class. I didn't talk about runes for the armor too much. I personally use the Runes of Rage, which gives you +2 ferocity and makes Fury last a little bit longer, but that's really up to you. I want you to figure out what works well for you as far as runes. If you do like this build, if this build works for you, please let me know down in the comments below. I personally love the Thief class. I mean, this was my first, what you would call main. It wasn't even my first 80. My first 80 was my Hunter, followed by, no, I'm sorry, backtrack. My first 80 was my Guardian, then my Hunter, then my Elementalist, then my Thief. And as soon as I got this Thief to 80, I was like, no, that's it. This Thief is my main. And then a year later, I decided let's go back to the Engineer and give that a try. Now my Engineer is my main. That's why I did my first video about kill dancing for the Engineer, because that class really taught me what having that feeling of kill dancing was all about. And that's what this game should be about. It should be about having that feeling like you made this character that's yours, that is just so awesome and can do so much damage, and you just feel so connected with it. And that's what kill dancing really is. It's about just feeling so comfortable in your character that you know, you not even that you have a rotation so much, you just know how your skills work. You know how the character is gonna work for you, and when you just feel that comfortable, you have no problem just being like, yeah, I'm the man, I just did that. So I hope that this works for you. I really hope you like this build, and like I said, let me know in the comments below if you did. I try to make these videos as entertaining and as informative as I can, so I hope I pull those things off right now for you. And like I said, good luck. I'll see you next time on Become HVT.